What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Frenemies. Joined as always by David Swor. I'm DJ Cox. And David, sometimes in life you got to do things just to get it done. And this is one of those nights. The Seattle Mariners. Oh, man. Is it 1995? Because if it was, this would be a lot more fun than it is right now.
DJ, let's just punt on the Mariners for just a minute.
Yes.
So we're, a couple weeks into the season, and there's been some crazy stuff happen. We talked a little bit off air. Screw the Mariners for a minute, just so everybody knows they suck. They're going to suck all year and probably next year. Let's talk just for a minute about what's been going on the last couple weeks. So, DJ, the Cardinals, they're 2-3 right now. Well, how mad are you going to be if they're like 14-8 at the end of the year and have a better win percentage than the Cubs and win the division?
This is a huge problem, and it's going to happen. And, we were talking about this too, is I don't understand why they don't bring in the taxi squad. You got a 60-man roster. What are we doing? I don't get this. I don't understand it. If you want to kick the 10 sick guys out for whatever reason, because they got the flu, put them in the quarantine, whatever the garbage that we're doing in this world is. You've got 60 men for a reason. I thought we had this settled. Now we're canceling games left and right. And now the Cubs are in a situation where if they end up playing most of their games, you got to worry about the Cardinals, who will probably be about 15 games back. What a nightmare, man. We go through this in high school baseball all the time because we only play up to 35 games in the regular season at most. And when you go into seeding meetings with teams and you see teams like this who are 7-3, and you've got a full roster, you got a full schedule of about 30 games on your team because you're playing all the time, and you go in there about 19-11, but they're 7-3. Come on, man. Get out of here with your 7-3 record. I'm sorry. You have no weight over a 19-11 team. And this is what it's going to be like, man. Come on, this is ridiculous. I'm fired up about it. I really am. They better be playing double headers to catch up here because they're going to be 13 games behind everybody, David.
So, DJ, me and you talked about this off air. I'm a Yankee fan, obviously. So the Yankees this week had to play 6 games in 4 days, 2 doubleheaders. And, of course, they lost most of them. The Yankees, they're having some issues right now. But I'm with you, man. How is that fair? And maybe it'll all come about at the end. It'll all work itself out with these doubleheaders and stuff. But, the Yankees haven't been down for coronavirus restrictions. They haven't had anybody test positive. Yet somehow it felt, kind of like they were being punished. They were calling up guys left and right, just trying to fill some innings in. And like you said, man, this could be real detrimental. I don't understand the point of the taxi squad if you're not going to use it. I don't get it. Maybe this is a players union thing. Maybe this is a service time thing. But listen, they need to call a timeout and fix this right now because this is a mess, man. This is just a huge mess.
It is, David, and it's not going to – who's to know? We don't know what every day brings forth in this crazy world right now, and who's to know when the next team this happens to. It's a mess, and I don't understand it. I thought we had this figured out. This is why I'm so frustrated. And it's like no fault of the Cardinals. I'm honestly not mad at the Cardinals at all. It's like, so, okay, I'm mad at MLB because make them play, If you got to shut down for a day, okay, but 13 games?
They had to have known this was
going to happen, man.
This was going to happen.
Yep.
And they had to be prepared for it. And like I said, I thought they were. I thought they had the taxi squad. I thought they would just move those guys in. They would just play for better or for worse. This is what it is this year. But no, like you said, man, there's definitely potential that the Cardinals, through no fault of their own, like I said, I'm not mad at them either. But they could be down 20 games from everybody else and definitely put you in a bad spot, man. I hate it. I hate it. So the next thing we got to talk about real quick. So today, old Roman Laureano got plunked for the 3rd time in 2 days. And he trots on down there to first base. And of all people, the Houston Astros hitting coach comes out. And like I told you off air, DJ, so the hitting coach with the Astros, does anybody know who he is? Did he play MLB? I mean, we don't know. I'm going to bet he's an IT degree type of guy. He's in charge of the Jumbotron out there, okay? And so, man, how long should he be suspended for? I mean, what's this idiot doing?
I don't know, but if Joe Kelly got 8 games for not even hitting anybody, I wonder what they're gonna do to Roman because he charged somebody and
They shouldn't
okay,
give him
buddy.
anything, man. They shouldn't
No,
give him anything. He
nope.
trotted right down first base. He chirped a little bit at the pitcher. He didn't make any move towards him at all. The guy hit him with a 78-mile-an-hour hanging slider in the shoulder blade, which for those of you that have never played ball, that still hurts. That still does not feel good.
That
And
hurts.
so he trotted down there, third time in 2 games. He went to first base, and the moron from the Astros hitting coach starts telling him to come over here. Well, any guy worth anything is going to be like, are you kidding me? So he takes off running over there, and of course they build the Great Wall over there, and the guy that did all the chirping standing back there just watching everybody tackling. I hate stuff like that, man. I wish those guys would have parted the waters and let Roman Laureano do his work, man. Roman, you're not watching this episode, but for some reason, if you stumble on this today,
Yeah.
I love it. I wish you'd have decked that dude right in the teeth.
Yeah.
I wish the Astros could miss about 40 games. I'm done with them. I'm just going to be honest.
I'm telling you, man. I hope they finish last. I really do. I'm sick and tired of those guys. I really am beyond sick of them. I used to really love the Astros. I'm not gonna lie, but after all this garbage, man, forget it. And another thing too, David, is he's gonna get a pretty hefty suspension on this, and because we can't touch anybody because everybody's supposedly got COVID. Well, if you're testing every day, what the heck are we doing? Is this not what we're doing?
Don't
Like,
even get me started. Don't even get – listen, I listened to some moron on MLB Network just last week on the radio talk about how disappointed he was. This is right after the Cardinals thing, that people were high-fiving. Hey, idiot, you're in a dugout. I mean, you're going to be walking by people and, touching things that they touched. A high five, I'm sorry, buddy. That's not what did it, okay? Get over it. Both these teams have been tested. They go in there for a big fight. Somebody will probably come out of it with it, of course, and it'll be this huge deal. It'll be all Roman Laureano's fault. We'll probably need to send him home like they sent Plesac home today. But my word, man, what a disaster. They've went and made a really good thing bad.
unbelievable, man.
I still love to watch it. I was sitting there watching the White Sox and the Indians a minute ago, so I'll still watch it. But it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating as a baseball fan. I know there's a lot of things they can't help, but some of these things they can help, and they need to fix it sooner rather than later.
And you're right, man. Manfred needs to do this. Timeout. We got to
Yep.
figure this out because, look, canceling games is not the answer. It's not. Like, if you got to shut the team down for a day and separate and, do whatever you got to do, I'm cool with that. I really am. But 13 games, get out of here. Send those guys away. Bring in the new guys and keep rolling, man. You knew this stuff was going to happen, and this is what I'm so frustrated about. I don't get it. Anyway, Seattle Mariners, it's 2020. This is going to be awful.
All right, 2019 Seattle Mariners, DJ.
Yep.
68-94. Give us the rundown.
Okay, so Scott Service is their manager, David. So who did Scott Service play for when he in his
Was it the
time?
Scrubs?
He sure did, buddy, and that's Cubs with a C. So
That's back when they were the Scrubs, though, right? I mean, that's back when they weren't very good.
hey, they made the playoffs my senior year in high school, so I'm pretty proud of that. 98. He was on that team too. So yeah, Service was on the Cubs all 4 years I was in high school. They had a rough year as far as saying goodbye to two faces of the franchise, and Ichiro, who was 45 years old when he retired, David.
I guarantee you he'd still be hitting if they left him up there, too. I wish he was still playing. That would be the only thing that would make the Mariners interesting was if Ichiro was still playing.
And so King Felix is the other guy. And I seriously, David, I thought King Felix was 45 years old himself. But he's only 34, 35, and I think he's trying to hang out with the Braves here. But they both ended their incredible careers with the Mariners. Those are Seattle legends right there. So it was really tough for fans, I'm sure, to see those two go out in the same year. Edgar finally moves into the Hall of Fame. A great year as far as that goes. I know you're not a fan of that, which is ridiculous to me, but I was ecstatic about that. So a lot of good things happened, too, for the Mariners franchise. Young players came up to begin their careers. Kyle Seager had a 3-homer game. That was pretty cool. Kyle Lewis debuts. Overall, their offense was really weak. Omar Narvaez led the team with a 278 batting average, which is
And they
terrible.
traded him, by the way.
They did. They did.
Traded him.
Uh, Daniel
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Vogelbach had 76 ribbies and 30 homers to lead the team, which he's a stud. Marco Gonzalez was 16 and 13 with a 3.99 ERA. Both led the starters. King Felix was 1-8 with a 6.40, so they were kind of letting him just hang along here for the ride, and they knew they weren't going anywhere, so he just kind of picked up the ball every fifth day and went out there and gave it up. And that's it, man. That's really all I can say is, they try to bring up some guys to try to see if they can stick, and that's what they're doing in 2020 as well. So pretty much a rough season. What do you got as far as that goes?
So last year, I got some notes here. Give me just a second. They called up, or they had more players, 22 players, make their debut, which was an MLB record. Second to worst in batting, it hit 237 last year. Eighth worst in ERA, and here's the thing: the worst defense in baseball. So listen, the Mariners just really sucked. They didn't do anything right. And to make matters worse, they traded Omar Narvaez, which they got some prospects for him. And Dipoto has not been shy about they're in full rebuild mode. So I read a little bit more on this today. They won 89 games 2 years ago.
Mariners did?
Yeah, they did, and they just tore it down. So they traded Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano, which that's looking like a genius idea, actually. And he's not shy about it. They're in tear-down modes, a la the Astros several years ago, and a lot of these other teams that have done it. The Rays are continually up, down, up, down, up, down. That's the mode that they're in. And man, if you're a fan of the Mariners, the next couple years are going to be kind of brutal. They just aren't good at anything. So this year, I think they're going to be worse than they were last year. Like I said, they lost Narvaez, which is one of their best home run hitters. They didn't do anything to improve their pitching. They lost a couple pitchers in the process. So, man, I'm like you. Last year was rough, and this year has potential to be rougher. So let's talk about key adds and key losses, DJ. You have a list there?
I do. So let's go with key adds first. Not much here, but Carl Edwards Jr., Sam Haggerty, Yoshikira Hirona, and Rendell Graveman.
Man. Well, you forgot one name in there, DJ.
Did I forget one?
Taijuan Walker.
Oh, Taijuan came along, yes.
Yeah, and I looked him up. He's had a little bit better career than I knew. So, he's played out west his whole career. I don't have his stats in front of me, but several sub-4 years. He obviously had an arm injury, was out all year last year. And so I actually think that was a good pickup. They picked him up for just a couple million. They needed pitching. It's hard for me to believe that their pitching is as bad as it is. Marco Gonzalez is a solid starter, but after that, they have nothing. So Taijuan Walker, I think that's a decent ad. What do you think about it?
Yeah, he's got to be the guy out of that list I just read. I don't know much about the Japanese guy, but maybe he's going to be one that sticks. Came over. They added him. So I know nothing about him. Can't really say anything as far as knowing much about him at all. It's kind of like when Ichiro came over. You knew he was going to be good, but you didn't really know too much because you can't really convert the Japanese game to the American game really easy. It's kind of hard to do. So I'm going to have to go with him as well, Walker. And yeah, I don't mind him at all either. I believe he's a little bit above a 500 pitcher if he's on, and I think he can help them more than Carl Edwards Jr., who kind of fell apart with the Cubs there. He looked a little promising for a while, but he had his ups and downs big time.
Let's talk about that, DJ. Carl Edwards. I remember back in the day when he was a really big part of that bullpen. So what did happen to him?
I don't know, man. He kind of lost it, to be honest with you. He was one of those guys for a while there where you could rely on him for an inning to just shut down, and he really fell apart there. He was out. I believe he went to San Diego before he came to the Mariners. I think we shipped him off there, and he didn't stick in San Diego and came back over to Seattle here. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he picks up his career and can get back on track a little bit because he's a big part of the Cubs teams there that were winning. And so I wish him well, but I don't think he's the key add to this team by any means at all, stretch of the imagination. So
yeah. So what all did they lose this year?
Well, they lost King Felix, Omar Narvaez, Wade LeBlanc, Tim Beckham, Tommy Malone, Domingo Santana, and Anthony Bass are their losses. And if you want to throw Ichiro in there too, since he played a little bit last year, you can do that as well. So
Yeah, so my biggest losses are Domingo Santana and Nevaez. This team couldn't really hit last year. That's 42 or 3 bombs. I don't remember which. I think one had 22, the other one had 21. That's 43 bombs gone off of this team, and we just read off the ads with no replacements. And so, again, I know they're in teardown mode, but this is honestly sad to watch, man. Seattle has been a good baseball town over the years. They've had a lot of great players come through there. And so this is sad for me to watch, but maybe it'll work out in the end. I'm not a Dipoto fan. He likes to make trades, I think, just for the sake of making them. And so maybe he'll prove me wrong. I don't know. What do you think, DJ?
yeah, I don't know either, man. I really don't. It's hard to tell what direction this team is going, and it really is. I'm kind of, man. You just reminded me they won 89 games 2 years ago, and that is so hard to remember that and believe that because it seems like they haven't really been there for a while. And I kind of am kind of shocked really that they were that good not very long ago because I just saw this team last night. To be honest with you, I kind of wanted to watch them a little bit, and I watched them play the Rockies last night just to kind of get a look at them and see, what's this team got as far as all their position guys. Because besides Seager and Vogelbach, I don't know too much about any of these guys, and so I saw a few guys out there who were okay, but man, I got to tell you, ooh, it's rough, and they're a long, long ways away. So that being said, David, what do you got for any strengths for this 2020 team?
Man, the strength is just the future. I mean, in their defense, they do have some nice young players that are coming up. Shed Long at second base is somebody to keep an eye on. Kyle Lewis is one of their outfielders of the future. They got 2 good outfielders in the minors that are on the cusp. That is probably going to be their 3 outfielders for the future. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw any shade at guys like Kyle Seager. I like Kyle Seager. At one point, Kyle Seager was a premier third baseman, but, he's had a couple of down years, but he's not the future, man. It's these guys that they have coming up. I think their first baseman was their top 5 prospect, Evan White. J.P. Crawford, they got in a trade last year. Looks to be a pretty nice shortstop. So they've got some pieces, at least on the hitting side, to keep an eye on. But, as far as basically, I don't think this team has a strength other than to look down the road at their future.
Yeah, prospects getting called up and getting to prove whether or not they belong, I think, is one of their things. And Daniel Vogelbach was their all-star last year. It's kind of a cool story. And this is something, too, that I think me and you talked about this a few weeks back is Vogelbach was a minor league player here in town. And just about 20 minutes up the road, we got a minor league team called the Kane County Cougars, and they were an affiliate of the Cubs, and man, that made total sense to me. Like, why are minor league teams, like not right down the road from their pro teams? Because we drew so many fans when the Cougars were the Cubs farm team. It was amazing, and then they switch over teams. So I'm not even gonna begin to understand how all that works with that. I really don't understand it, to be honest with you. I wish I had somebody who could really in detail explain to me how that whole thing works as far as switching affiliates all the time. I don't get it. But when he was a Cubs prospect for a while, and it's cool to go see those guys. And, man, I was real high on this kid. I'm like, this kid can't run a lick. He can't move, but he can mash. And I was right about that. He's just a big old tank, man, and he can just destroy a baseball. And if I'm not mistaken, he was in a home run derby last year or the year before. And he had a really good year last year. I love Kyle Seager. I know he kind of gets overlooked by his brother a little bit. His brother may be a little bit better ball player than him, but Kyle Seager's no joke, man. 200 career bombs. He just hit his 200th. That's legit. He's top 5 or 6 in franchise history in the Mariners, and that's saying something because they've had some really good players come through there. So he's legit, man. He's a really good player. And like you say, he's not the future. He's been around for a long time, and so he's not really a piece that you would build around either, to be honest with you. He's not that great, but I'd say he's really good. So he's good to have on your team, but not something you build towards a future with young guys. So I agree 100% there. So one thing I kind of could say, I was impressed with Kyle Lewis last night. I saw him go in the gap and get a ball, and as a center fielder, I kind of know what it's like and how the trajectory of getting a baseball is, and he can go get it, man. He made a real nice play out there in center, and he's hitting really well so far this year. So I kind of liked him. I'm not real too sure about these other guys. I really am not. Um, Malik Smith led the league in stolen bases last year, which is pretty impressive. I mean, when you lead the league in something, that's something else. I think he had 46 steals. And the year before, 2018, he had 10 triples. So, when you lead the league in categories, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if he's going to be a great player or, maybe he could be Vince Coleman type at the top of your lineup. I'm not sure if that's too steep of a comparison for him to be. But other than that, man, I'm not too sure.
So, DJ, I've got to ask you about something that happened last year. So in this outfield mix that we're talking about, what you don't hear mentioned is Mitch Haniger. DJ, do you remember the injury that Mitch Haniger had last year? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, man, I wanted to throw up for the guy, man. Holy cow. Was that bad? And to be honest with you, he did a podcast, and I've got it in my email, and I have to send it to you because I haven't seen it yet, but he talks in there, and I'm curious to hear what he has to say because, man, I mean, this guy is good, and I forgot about him a little bit, but if you got a guy like Haniger out there running around, man, he's healthy. Yeah, I think he's going to be a one of these guys that sticks with this team, and but yeah, that was brutal, and I felt so bad for the kid, man. I was just almost hurting so bad for him when that happened, and
So, DJ, can you explain the play? So, for people that don't know, he had a ruptured testicle. Now, man, I can't even imagine the thought of that. DJ, how did it come about, man? What happened on that play?
You know what? I have to refresh myself, but when you get the ruptured testicle in there, that's what kind of like destroys everything that you thought about that play. And how long is he out for, David? What's the diagnosis on that? Because I'm honestly not sure. Is he coming back this year or no?
So everything I read on him, because I'd kind of forgot about him too until I started looking at the 2018 stats and was like, hey, what happened to that guy? So everything that I read, he's actually had another injury, man. He's had, I believe, back surgery, and he's due to be back this season. The last update I read, which was like early July, but he's still a ways away. Honestly, if I'm Mitch Haniger, I got to think about just saying it's not worth it. I'll just stay at the training facility, work on getting completely healthy, and shooting for next year because this team's a waste. I hate to be that way. It's a waste. They traded, like we talked about, they traded Narvaez with hopes that they had another good catcher, Tom. His name has slipped me. Wilson, I believe, is his last name. But anyway, he had a great year last year, but he's out for the season too. So they're going with Austin Nola, Aaron Nola's brother. Man, there's just not a lot to like on this team other than the future. And if I'm Mitch Haniger, I'm waiting it out until I can make sure that I'm healthy. Because the last thing he wants to do is come back again, not completely healthy, and get injured again and have to sit again next year. So anyway, my heart goes out to you, Mitch Haniger. Rough. Was it a foul ball, DJ? Is that what happened?
I'm trying to pull this back up again. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. I remember it happening. I think he actually was just diving back into first base, to be honest with you. And it just popped.
Wow. Brutal. Just brutal.
And you can see that.
So, DJ,
you can honestly see that happening, David. You really can, because when you're laying full on you've done it. I mean, it.
Thankfully, DJ, those days are behind me. I'm a butt slide first type of guy now. I'll never dive back into another bag. So the Lord spared me over the years, apparently. I'll never think of doing that in the same way. Like, I don't know, man.
You know me, man. You know that I was that head first guy all the time out there, diving in the outfield to steal bases. And man, if that would ever happen to me, uh, oh,
Brutal.
that's,
So DJ, let's talk about weaknesses. Maybe just organizational weaknesses. I mean, obviously, like I said, there's not a lot of strengths on this team. What's a specific weakness we can talk about?
well, it's the lack of experience, man, from this starting lineup. I mean, this is a terrible lineup as far as numbers go and experience goes. It really is. I mean, like we said, if Kyle Seager is your best player, and nothing against him because he's really good, but he should not be your best player on any team, then you've got problems, really, to be honest with you. And, I don't even know what they're going to do in left field. They keep rotating guys. They're just kind of throwing everybody around out there. You got Lewis, you got Smith, whose numbers are okay. I mean, Kyle Lewis has only had 13 career at bats. Last year he had 13 at bats, 268. Shed Long had 15 at bats, 263. J.P. Crawford 46 at bats, 226. Evan White's a rookie. Jose Marmolios is a rookie as well. I might have slaughtered that name, but he's kind of in the rotation at left as well. And then you got Vogelbach and Seager. So, man, and I looked at the lineup last night. I was watching him play the Rockies, and it's a nasty weakness. And I don't too much mind their rotation pitching wise. I mean, let's not get too happy here, but I like Gonzalez, and I think Walker's okay. And I know nothing about the number 3 guy that's in their rotation.
Well, let me tell you, Kikuchi is the number 3 guy. 5.46 ERA last year, DJ. 5.46 ERA. That's their number 3. They spent money on that guy. Yeah, 7-digit money per year on a guy with a 5.46.
So tell me a little bit more about him. Do you know? Did he pitch last year in Japan, or is he?
No. So Kikuchi was here last year. He had been in Japan the year before. They signed him. I'd have to pull up the numbers, but I mean, to a pretty hefty contract. I mean, nothing crazy, but like I said, they're spending money on a guy with a 5.46 ERA. And whatever scout you are out there that decided that was a good idea, I don't know what game you were watching. Behind him, they got a former Yankee top prospect, Justice Sheffield, who seems to have good stuff but has a really big problem throwing strikes. Tonight, 7 shutout innings tonight, so maybe he's figuring it out. And then they have one of their top prospects is their number 5 starter. I don't have his name in front of me here. Justin Dunn. So he could be an interesting guy. So maybe Sheffield and Dunn make this rotation interesting. I don't know. I'm not a believer in Sheffield. The Yankees, I think, weren't believers in him. They brought him up a couple times. He just can't throw strikes. He's one of these guys that is around the plate, but if he's over it, it's in the middle of it. He can't hit the corners. He doesn't throw good strikes, at least as of last year. And so going into this game that he had today, he was getting bombed. Maybe he's turned it around. I hope he's turned it around. He's got a good arm. Little guy. He's only 5'10", 5'11". He's a lefty. He kind of, if I remember right, was out of the Johan Santana model. He's got a good changeup, but just had trouble throwing strikes. So we'll see. I hate the pitching depth. DJ, can you name the Seattle Mariners closer?
Taylor Williams.
Neither can Scott Servais. Because they don't know. The last guy that I saw that they had listed as their closer had a 9.82 ERA. Behind him, you got Carl Edwards and Yoshi Hirano and a bunch of guys that I've never heard of before. So it's just going to be a while, man. They're just not very good anywhere, but I hate their pitching. There's just not a whole lot to like about it, at least this year. And to be honest with you, the depth on the pitching side in the minors is a couple years away. And so I don't know if Seattle's going to want to look at signing some guys this offseason, what their plan is. Again, it's hard to know with Jerry Dipoto sometimes what his plan is, but it's going to be a good couple years at least before they're competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they're really rough, man. This was really tough to study for and to try to get. Like I said, I watched them play for about 4 or 5 innings last night before I fell asleep, and oof, It was pretty bad. So what's what's the best case scenario for a team like this, David?
Well, DJ, I would say it's last place, but there's a team in the AL West who's giving them for their money. And DJ, would you like to tell our fans who
No,
that team is?
no, it ain't happening, brother.
Well, I would hope
This
not.
place.
But as of right now, they are in fourth place. Seattle is. So our good buddy DJ, his Angels, cellar dwellers right now. They got beat by Texas again today. If I'm not mistaken, that's the broom for them. And but anyway, all joking aside, if Seattle doesn't get last place, it's a miracle. It would be akin to someone walking on water or, something along those. This is an epically bad team. I had less fun researching this team, I think, than anybody. Seriously.
Yeah.
Very hard to understand. And like I said, maybe it's an out west thing where we just don't get to watch that much of them. But I think their best case scenario is last place. What do you think?
It is. There's no way. There is no way they finish out of the cellar with this team. There really isn't. They're brutal, man. And we were talking pretty bad about the Orioles, the Tigers, the Pirates, man. And after researching these guys, you got to throw these guys in the barrel with them, and it's a crapshoot as to which one of these teams is the worst out of all those. Ugh, man, they're definitely a bottom four team in the majors. They really are. And man, if we could talk about 95 Mariners, we could do this for 2 hours. But this team is just brutal. And so, David, here just before we transverse here into the worst case scenario, which we already know. So since Ichiro just retired, I want to give him a little love. Think about this for a second. Ichiro came into the league with Pujols, who's still playing too, obviously, in 2001. When me and you were smack dab in the middle of our college careers, these two came on the scene and both won Rookie of the Years. I'll tell you what, man, it's hard to name two MVPs for a season like them, or rookies, I should say, two Rookie of the Years in the history that won it on the same year that are better than those two. The careers are outstanding, unbelievable. Ichiro got way over 3,000 hits when he played 10 seasons in Japan before he came over, and then he played from 2001 till last year in the show. Like, are you kidding me? I am just in awe. And there's some debate, man. He may be one of the top 10 players of all time. And that's saying a lot with all the guys that have played this game, but his numbers do not lie. And I will not bring his Japanese numbers in because I don't think they count whatsoever. But one of the greatest hitters of all time, especially from the left side of the plate. And what a great career he ended up with last year. And a cool way to go out, too, to be honest with you. He wasn't going to play the whole year last year. And I think Seattle opened the season over in Japan and played the Japan series and then retired. Pretty cool way to go out in front of his home fan as an MLB team. So, I don't know, man. What do you think, Ichiro?
I was slow aboard the Ichiro train, just to be honest with you. When I think of a guy who practically runs in the box and hits it, I think about softball. And so I didn't respect him much when he first came up. But, the longer he was in the league, it became obvious that he was the man. And he was not only a great hitter. I heard someone say one time that Ichiro wasn't a home run hitter because he chose not to be. They said that you could put him in home run derby and he might win it. He had good power. He just wasn't that type of player. He had an absolute cannon for an arm. He was great on defense. One of the best throws I've ever seen came from Ichiro. Just a complete bullet from right field. I can't remember who he threw out. I want to say it was
in Oakland A.
It was in Oakland A. Was it Tejada? Maybe I don't remember.
I don't remember who exactly, but I do know for sure it was the Oakland A's.
Yeah, just a cannon, man. So I'm with you. I was so excited when the Yankees got him. The Yankees kind of used him more as a fourth outfielder type, and just a cool guy to have around, man. And I don't know if you've seen his tricks and stuff on YouTube. The most recent one is just ridiculous. I think he was throwing at 3 bats from the mound and hit all 3 of them in 3 straight pitches. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
Unreal. Just unreal. They put a bat like on each end of the plate and one in the middle. He's at the mound. He turns around and just boom, 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 knocks all 3 of them down. Unreal. And so, dude, I'm with you. First ballot Hall of Famer in my book. He might be the best hitter of all time. We'll never know because of those years in Japan. I definitely like him way more than Pete Rose, if I'm just being honest about it. So, just a cool guy, man.
Imagine if he did play those 10 years in the MLB for a second. Holy cow. Huh? He'd have been the all-time hits leader, David. There's no doubt about it. None.
Yeah. Very durable, too. That's another thing. Yeah. He hardly ever was injured. So, like I said, he's just a freak athlete. There's nothing else you could say about it. He's a freak athlete. So, DJ, I want to get in the weeds here. I've been holding this back. I'm going to read off Edgar Martinez similarity scores. Hall of Famer Edgar Martinez.
Oh, here we go.
Now, keep in mind, all these guys I'm getting ready to name played in the field, DJ. But your boy Edgar didn't. All he did was hit. So here's his similarity scores from batting. Will Clark, Matt Holliday, John Olerud, Moises Alou, Maglio Ordonez, Bob Johnson, Bernie Williams, Adrian Gonzalez, Paul O'Neill, and Lance Berkman. DJ, how many of those 10 guys are Hall of Famers?
Well, it doesn't matter, Mr. David, because what's the number for WAR that's a Hall of Fame number that you keep bringing up all the time? What's the WAR number?
Well, supposedly it's 60. I use WAR as a tool to try and bring fielding in, honestly. But, let's be honest about WAR. Let's talk about that for a minute. So last year, Brett Gardner had a similar WAR score to Bryce Harper. Now, do we think Brett Gardner's as good as Bryce Harper? Come on, man. That's a come on, man. But is Will Clark as good as Edgar Martinez, DJ?
No, he's not.
Will Clark was a career 303 hitter.
He was. He was great. He really was.
What about your boy Matt Holliday? Is he even sniffing the Hall of Fame?
Nope.
Matt Holliday has a similar batting average and home runs with your boy Edgar. So what is it that makes Edgar a Hall of Famer? As a DH of all things, DJ.
So this guy has 10 dominant years. He does. He's got a 68 WAR, which the 60 is the one you said. He had a career 312 batting average, which we talked about hitters getting in the Hall like Todd Helton. You don't have to hit.
Todd Helton played first base, DJ.
Oh, you have a problem with the DH. Okay. Okay, so here we go with this then. Okay, Mariano Rivera pitched 1 inning. Who cares?
He's the best of all time, DJ.
He pitched 1 inning every other game. He got in 1 inning every other game.
What if Will Clark would have been a DH, DJ?
Then
what if Will Clark would have been a DH on a team that went to the playoffs a few times and he got to have some clutch hits? Is Will Clark going to be in the same conversation with Edgar Martinez?
Will Clark's not in the same boat as Edgar Martinez, man.
According to his stats, he is.
No. Will Clark.
John Olerud, Bernie Williams, Maglio Ordonez, Lance Berkman, all guys with similar numbers. There's 10 guys there that supposedly are similar in batting to Edgar Martinez.
During their prime years, I agree. During their solid hitting years. But none of those guys you mentioned had 10 dominant years. I've looked at all their stats. All those guys had cases. But when I look through them all, there's not 10 dominant years. Dude, he is unbelievable. His on-base percentage is a career .418 on-base percentage. He won a batting title twice with .343, .356. He hit .370 rookie year.
He's a very good hitter. I don't deny that.
Very good.
He's a very good hitter.
He's great. He had 37 homers and 145 ribbies and batted .324, 23 homers, 116, .306, 2486, 337, 29102, 322, 28108, 330, 26103, 327, 29113, 356, 1873, 343. He batted 307 and 302 the other 2 years. He rookie year 372. Come on, David.
I just named for you 10 guys who, according to Baseball Reference, have similar career stats. 10 guys. Not one in the Hall of Fame. Not one will even get a smell of the Hall of Fame. Several of those guys had more homers than he did. Several of them had more hits. Several of them had more RBIs.
Some of them accumulated their numbers, David. That's what I have a problem with. Some of those guys that stick around for a long time and accumulate numbers. And I'll take the guy who dominates 10 years over the guy who plays 20 years and accumulates numbers any day for Hall of Fame case.
All right. Well, here's Lance Berkman's numbers for 10 years. 297, 21 homers, 331, 34 homers, 292, 42 homers, 288, 25 homers, 316, 30 homers, 293, 24 homers, 315, 45 homers, 278, 34 homers, 312, 29 homers, 274, 25 homers. There's 10 years. He's dominant. He was a switch hitter. And even if he did a crappy job, he played in the field.
That's what you're having a hard time with is playing the field. Your boy Mo Rivera pitched 1 inning every other game, and you're worried about Edgar, who played every day for 9 innings, just hitting 4 or 5 times a game. Way more relevant than a closer. Way more relevant than a closer. If you're going to put closers in, you let the DHs in. It's simple as that. You cannot argue that.
My DH better be hitting 500 bombs. My DH better be David Ortiz or Frank Thomas. Those are Hall of Fame type DH guys. Jim Tomei is a Hall of Fame DH who probably played more innings in the field than Edgar did. Those are Hall of Fame DHs, DJ.
Berkman had 8 or 9 great years. I'll give you that. 10 is the number, though. He didn't have 10. He's close.
I give up.
He's close.
I give up. Well, back to the crappy Seattle Mariners. So, DJ, let's talk about this ballpark real quick. Can I be honest with you and tell you I've never had a desire to go to Safeco, now T-Mobile Field? I looked at it today just because I just didn't know that much about it, to be honest with you. It's a newer park. I think it was built in 97. It's got retractable roof, which I'm a big fan of that. But the biggest thing that they can offer me with things to do around is an art walk. DJ, I'm not going to go to no game to go on an art walk. So tell me why I should like T-Mobile Field.
You can go to the Space Needle after you're done and have some food and sit up. Okay, so let me ask you something first before we get in this. Did you see the special on the 95 Mariners?
DJ, I lived the special of the 95 Mariners. It ruined my life. Yes, I did watch the 95 Mariners special.
That was awesome, by the way. An absolutely fun special to watch. You kind of forget how crazy that whole scenario was. What a team that was. And that team actually led to a new stadium and led to keeping the Mariners in Seattle. Mm-hmm. The Kingdome was an absolute dump. I would not want to have gone to that. What a terrible looking field. Safeco's a little intriguing to me. I agree that I'm not really that pumped to go to it. It's kind of one of those that's off by itself. Seattle's like way up and out by its own. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can get the Northern California teams if you're to do that. It's still a state in between them, so it's tough. I'm not very intrigued by it either. I'll be honest with you. It's way better than the Kingdome ever dreamed of being. But I'm just not I'm like you, man. I'm not really running as fast as I can to get to Safeco because, parks like Fenway, I'd much rather go to and see those. And there's a lot of them on the list that I'd rather see. Talked about the Giants field, and it's not up there for me either. I totally agree, and I've never been to either of them.
Wouldn't you say it's the most boring of the new parks? I mean, is that fair?
That's fair. I agree. I mean, you're right because like a lot of these new parks came along in the last 15, 20 years, and the more modern type styles where you've got designers and you can do really cool things with it. I don't know, man. Unless we're missing something when we actually get there, I agree because just not seeing it from everything I see on TV and anything like that, I'm just not intrigued. And so hopefully get there eventually. I'll be pleasantly surprised by it, and I'm hoping I'm wrong about it. I really am because I would love to go there and be in awe of it. And I just am kind of like you. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, me either. I'm with you. So let's back up a little bit. I skipped the farm system. So let's talk about the farm. Ranked anywhere I saw between ninth and 11th. Who are some interesting players on the farm?
Jared Kelnick is a guy I've been reading up a lot about, and one of the outfielders. I believe you were talking earlier about two of the guys that are coming up soon. Jared's one of those guys, and um, out of the guys that they've got running around the outfield right now, if Kyle Lewis sticks around and Jared is out there, and then you got one more guy that maybe you'll bring up that you could have a pretty decent outfield out there if these guys pan out. Jared's an outfielder, 6'1", 190, throws left, bats left. His ETA is next year, so he's probably coming up next year. Got him in Robinson Cano trade, so this is a guy that they brought over, like you were saying. It ended up being a smart move on their part to get rid of Cano and try to get some prospects. He's a 2020 type player in the minors, so he could do that for you in the pros. He can steal a little. He can hit for some power. Nothing too off the wall like a 30-30 or 40-40 guy, but 2020 is not too bad. So, he's got a little potential. He's only 20 years old. He's from Wisconsin, which is kind of rare too, David. There's not too many prospects that come from Wisconsin. If you know anything about Wisconsin, man, it's a different world out there as far as your games go, because most states play high school baseball in the spring, except for Iowa, which plays in the summer. Which, man, those guys are smart, and they played their summer season or their season this year. The only state to do it. Lucky them. And but Wisconsin, man, it's still literally snowing in April and May sometimes. And I do not know how they get their games in. I talked to one of our teachers at my school, and he's got a nephew up there, and they just do not play many games at all up there. They can't. They really can't. They're starting to go to try to turf fields and, try to get them in that way by shoveling them off when it snows. But you just don't see many guys from Wisconsin come along that are really good. And he's one of the few, man. He really is. And so that's kind of unique about him as well. So what do you got?
Well, I was going to go with him as well. He came through Charleston, West Virginia, last year. I'll have to hand it to my boy Reagan Jett. He was a huge Power. West Virginia Power is our affiliate. And this goes back to your question. We were a Pittsburgh affiliate, which was awesome. And so we kind of got to follow those players. Pittsburgh games are on TV, so you kind of got to watch them. Well, somehow in the last few years we got switched to a Seattle affiliate. But Reagan called it out. He was like, man, this dude is a stud. Reagan goes to a lot of those games, or did go until he moved. And so since he mentioned that, I've kind of been keeping an eye on him. And, man, the Mets are hating that trade right now because he looks like a really promising prospect. Another guy to keep an eye on is Emerson Hancock. He was their 2020 first rounder. Casey Mize comp. So that's a pretty good comp for him. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Obviously, they say he's going to be a fast mover, but he's at least a year away. And DJ, this is completely out in left field, but I got to ask you this question. I've asked this question to several people here lately, and I haven't got an answer that I feel like was legitimate, just to be honest with you. Why don't they switch high school football and high school baseball? We know that the weather in the fall is much better. It would be a lot easier to get a season in, starting games in August and maybe ending in October. And football can be played in colder weather a lot easier. So what do you think it is that holds states back from wanting to do that?
One of the big things that messes us up a little bit, and there's a solution to this, but one of the things that's a problem is as you get towards daylight savings time ending, you run into the problem of games being called around 6 o'clock due to darkness. So if you start your game at 4:30, which is what we do in Illinois, you got an hour and a half to get your game in, and that's not really possible, to be honest with you. Our games are normally about two and a
Y'all
half.
not have lights?
What's that?
You don't have lights?
There's a lot of high schools that do not have lights. We have 660 high schools in this state, and I would say of those 660, just a complete guess, but I'd say about 50, 60 have lights. There's not
DJ,
many. There's not many.
you better not ever make fun of West Virginia baseball. I don't know a high school that doesn't have lights.
Are
That
you?
blows my mind.
No,
No.
no, we
Wow.
don't. We don't. Like, there's hardly, I mean, hardly any, to be honest with you, that have lights. I would say that's probably pretty accurate. 60 to maybe that's even 60 to 100 of the 660 schools have lights. That's where you run into the problem. Is now the solution to that, though, David, is you start at 4 o'clock a little earlier, and if you have to travel for a game, that's why you have like a seventh period where you have your PE class, okay? And so you have athletic PE, seventh period, which is your last period of the day. If you've got to go to a game, you go to a game. If you don't, then you stay in and get your work in. So that's how you get around that. You really can. Is you have athletic PE last semester, but you have to get everybody to sign off on that. That's really hard to do. Every school to do that just probably wouldn't happen. So that's the biggest thing I can see with it. But you're totally right. If they started mid August and went to mid October, I feel like we would get a lot more games in. I really do. Before it started to get really bad. The one problem you might run into is the state series going into October a little bit. That weather gets real shifty here, so you would be in a nice stadium for that game, but you won't have a roof on over your head. So that's where you run into the problem there. So I don't know, man. It's tough, and we almost did it this year, to be honest with you, but it didn't happen. And so I don't know.
Tradition seems to be the biggest thing that I've heard. And I've also heard, which is legitimate, that high school football kind of pays for the other sports, and so you got to have it first. And so I guess I can understand that, but it just seems like August, even in West Virginia, would be a horrible time to be wearing pads and a helmet. Horrible. And at the same time, playing baseball in March in West Virginia is awful. It is awful. And DJ, I don't know if you remember those freezing cold February games in Chattanooga, man. I used to hate that. As a pitcher, it's tough to get a feel for the ball. Your hands are freezing. But anyway, that's most of March and part of April here in West Virginia. So I've just never understood it. I guess there's just too many hurdles, and probably just never happen.
It probably never will, and I agree with you 100% on the whole March thing. You'll normally catch 1 week where you'll get good weather in March, and then every year here towards the end of March, it snows and you're wiped out for a week and a half. So my general solution to this problem is, and what Illinois did was beyond us and completely stabbed us in the back, is we wanted to push our season back, a week, start the season. Say we start on March 1st normally. We start about March 10th, and then we push our playoffs a week and a half later, and we start playing the playoff games later, which gives you more time to get more games in. Well, for some reason, we agreed to that, and the IHSA, they say, okay, we're starting March 10th, but we're keeping the playoffs where they were. We just agreed to stop our season 10 days short. Now we're starting 10 days later for nothing. The playoffs are still the same time. They completely messed that up, and teams are mad about it because our season's short as it is, and now it's even shorter. The next 5 years it's agreed upon. I don't get it. We should go more into June. We should go more into them. Travel can whatever. I don't care about. They can kiss it. They can start later and adjust to us, man, because this is where everybody wants to play for their home teams, and it's a mess. It really is, and you can't really win either way.
No. All right, DJ, back to the Mariners. You got me some trivia?
Really have to.
I know.
I got some trivia for you, yes. And this
All right, let's hear it.
This is good. So back in 1995, I'm going to go back there for you, David. I know you love this time. I know you love this series.
I really appreciate that.
Ken Griffey Jr. was motoring around from first base to second, picking up full speed, which I've never in my life seen Ken Griffey Jr. run as fast as he did on this play. He scores head first, gets tackled by his teammates, and you can see his head pop out of that pile. Really cool. Your boy A-Rod was there as a bench warmer.
By the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. If I have to hear A-Rod announce another game, would you hurry up and buy the Mets? I'm just so sick and tired of hearing A-Rod call games. All right, go ahead.
He's going to buy it with J-Lo, and they're going to get –
I wish they would. If it would just accomplish getting him off the air. Anyway, go ahead.
Who knocked in Ken Griffey Jr. to score?
Edgar Martinez, shut up.
Yes. You're doggone right he did, David, because he is clutch, and clutch is everything in life.
Oh, gosh. All right, I got you one right here. Name for me the Mariners' top 5 pitchers in wins. Actually, you know what? I'll make this easy. Top 3.
Felix Hernandez.
Number 1, 169.
Jamie Moyer.
I'm surprised. That's the one I didn't think you would get. Number 2, 145.
Mark Langston.
Number 5.
Joe Pinero. No, take that back. Not Joel Pinero. Oh, man. Langston.
You're missing a really big one.
I bet I am. Felix Moyer. I'm missing number 3.
Yep. Number 4 is a tough one. I think you would get that one. Number 3 is the big daddy. Think about John Kruk in the All-Star game.
Oh, geez, duh. Really? That was stupid of me. How did I forget him?
Well,
wow. He's played for 48 teams, though. So
you probably think he was a Yankee. That's why.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw a guy on eBay, on Facebook yard sale, selling a signed, framed Randy Johnson autographed jersey, and it was a Yankee one. I was like, what the heck, man? Anyway, number 4, DJ, played for the White Sox.
Number 4 played for the White Sox.
Yep, your favorite team who you coached for one time.
Doggone it. What era? Just give me the era.
He played 99 to 13. Had a really good career, actually. I always had a lot of respect for this guy. He was a Yankee for a minute, too. Was actually really good with the Yankees the first season anyway. You give up?
No, I don't. I got it. Freddie, was it Garcia?
Freddie Garcia.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Freddie Garcia, man. He was a stud for the Mariners back in the day. He won 17, 18, 16, 12, and 13. So
how many years with the White Sox? Not many, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. He had 2 different stints with the White Sox. He was with the Phillies in between.
Man, I would have never guessed 5 years with the White Sox, but wow, okay, yeah, that makes
sense. All right, DJ. Favorite player, Seattle Mariners.
Oh, it's got to be Ken Griffey Jr. I thought a little bit about this because I really love Randy Johnson and Edgar Martinez and Jay Buhner. I love those guys, man. Jay Buhner was so much fun to watch and such a stud. And it's kind of amazing how when you watch that special on these guys, one of the great things that I took from that, and I'll get off this real quick and go back to Junior, but I just want to talk about Buhner for a second, is that 95 team still hurts a little bit when the Indians took them out. You could tell how much that hurt Jay Buhner, and still hurts to this day. Like, he physically was crying about that at the end of that how much that hurt and how much they thought that they were going to do. You know, as amazing of a season as that was, and still fall short. It's cool to see the passion from MLB players that just fell short and how hard that is on them and how much it still hurts. It makes you understand that they're not just out there for the money sometimes. And it was really cool to see Buhner played for the love of the game and was an awesome guy to watch. But Ken Griffey Jr., man, 630 homers, 1836 ribbies, 284 career hitter, 370 on base, 2781 hits, 1662 runs. The kid, defensive stalwart. Wasn't a huge arm, but he had a good arm. Wore his hat backwards, which he kind of started that whole trend. You know, real cool to do that. The kid, man, when he came up as a 19-year-old, he lit the world on fire and back-to-back homers with his dad. How cool is that? Just really, really outstanding. And the face of the franchise to this day, I believe, is Ken Griffey Jr. And that's hard to say with Ichiro too there and Randy Johnson, but I got to go Ken Griffey Jr. What about you?
Yep, believe it or not, even though he hated the Yankees, and I actually didn't know that until recently. But I loved Ken Griffey Jr. If you weren't looking for 1989 Don Russ rookie card, you weren't breathing back in the day, man. And I remember opening the pack, and back then there wasn't eBay or whatever. You had to open the pack and get it. And man, I was so pumped to get that Ken Griffey card. If you didn't want you a pair of Ken Griffey shoes back in the day, you weren't human, man. I always loved the Griffey shoes, everything about him. He played the game with a smile on his face. You know, a lot of these guys are jerks. Just to be honest about it. Barry Bonds, he's a punk, man. And Ken Griffey Jr. was not. He was the guy that you saw over there with his hat backwards, signing autographs for the kids and all that. And I'm like you. I loved Randy Johnson. One of the best pitchers of our era, if not the best. But, man, I love to watch Ken Griffey Jr. play. I mean, I remember getting up in the summers and turning on Sports Center, Baseball Tonight, watching those highlights. He was the man.
In that 98 season, you kind of forget about him, but he was up there for a long time in that race, man, with McGuire and Sosa.
Yeah.
And what an absolute stud he was. He just, just a joy to watch play the game. Unbelievable player. I absolutely loved watching him. And tell me I'm wrong, the prettiest left-handed swing in the history of baseball.
Yeah, I don't think I could argue that at all. Just beautiful. He was just so graceful in everything he did, man. The catches that he made, even running into the wall and diving, it was just graceful, man. He was just a graceful guy to watch.
A lot of fun, man. Played with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, and that's what made that 95 team so much fun. Is all guys on that team, and when we got into college there, 98 and 99 respectively, all those video games that we played were if you picked the Mariners, man, you had a great team because you had those guys on that team, and whew, man, a lot of fun to watch. And I was really happy they came out with a special on those guys because they deserved it, even though they didn't really do much as far as winning anything. But and if I'm not mistaken, the Mariners don't have any World Series titles, one of the few teams that do not have one, and that's just crazy. And they're not going to get one anytime soon either, based off what we've been talking tonight. But
no, not looking good. Well, DJ, I guess this wraps up the Seattle Mariners. Well, we got 3 more teams left to go, I think, is where we are. Well, we got the Twins. Who else?
We got the Twins, the Rangers. We got the Nationals we're doing right now. And Royals. So we're almost done.
Jeffrey B., we need you for this one, buddy.
Dusty
Childress, we need you. We need you for this Royals one. So hopefully you guys are watching and we'll be able to see this. But like DJ said, the Nationals are next. That should be a really interesting one. DJ, you got anything else?
I'm good, man. We got an hour on the Mariners somehow, so we're good.
All right, buddy. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.
All right. See you, everybody.